So, you guys remember Copycat? You know, that guy Keyblade Master commentated on in my video commentating on him? Well, he decided to make a list of overrated Nintendo games, and it is honestly one of the most confusing and just all-around worst videos on video games I have ever seen.
How's everything going today, guys? My name is Copycat, and welcome to a very special video where I'm going to go over the most overrated games in Nintendo's history.
Random question, am I the only one who's reminded of Carl from that one episode of SpongeBob whenever I hear this guy's voice?
I think you'll find working at the Krabby-O Mondays to be both a learning experience and an enjoyable one.
I feel like this topic could be a bit controversial, as a few of the titles you'll see here are quite popular amongst the general fan base.
Yeah, it's an overrated games list. I would expect all of the games on it to be well-liked. The fact that they are well-liked, while you find them to be maybe not necessarily bad, but at the very least not as good as many people make them out to be, would make them overrated in the first place.
But I'll definitely try my best to explain why they deserve to be mentioned.
Oh, thank God. I was worried you were going to intentionally give your audience a half-assed explanation. Thank you for clearing that up.
One recent Nintendo Switch entry that I was ultimately disappointed in was Super Mario 3D All-Stars.
And by recent, he means over a year and a half old. Also, am I the only one who finds it weird to put a compilation of games on an overrated games list? Especially considering most of the praise towards 3D All-Stars has nothing to do with any inherent value of the compilation itself, but more just from the novelty of it being 3 really well-liked 3D Mario games put onto one disc. Hell, even Metro Game Central, which gave the game a 10 out of 10, acknowledged it was only doing so primarily because of the fact it was a compilation of games that they already loved. Don't believe me? Here's how they begin their review. We've always been great believers in review scores. There is an issue with people not reading the text and just looking at the score, but we're not convinced that the type of person would pay any more attention without a number at the bottom. We also don't like the fact that it tends to be more nuanced reviewers that don't give scores, which risks unbalancing aggregator sites like Metacritic. A review score is the most succinct summary of a review possible, and that has value. Not to mention, it's all part of the fun of writing reviews, from our perspective. All that said, we have to admit that the 10 out of 10 score we're giving Super Mario 3D All-Stars does not come close to telling the full story. And yet, we don't know what else we could have given this remaster compilation. Super Mario Galaxy is one of the best games ever made, and it holds up even better than we expected. And yet, Super Mario 3D All-Stars itself is a cheaply made cash grab that feels like it's been thrown together during Shigeru Miyamoto's lunch hour. By the way, this is not the only part of the review which, might I remind you, gave the game a 10 out of 10, where they just start insulting the game. Another part of the review read, Super Mario 3D All-Stars is not a very good compilation, but 2 of the 3 games it contains are exceptional. One more from a historical perspective, and the other from every angle imaginable. These are games that everyone owes it to themselves to play, and if the medium for doing so is this rather underwhelming collection, that's still far better than nothing at all. This brings me to another point. What exactly is overrated about 3D All-Stars in the first place? Of the 102 critic reviews that are found on Metacritic, they average a score of 82. And, by the way, the review I just read would count as a 100. Meanwhile, of the 765 user reviews submitted, they have an average of 6.4. That averages out to a 7.3. A very middle-of-the-road score, all things considered, especially in modern game reviews. Hell, I just mentioned there were 765 reviews. Of those, Metacritic marked 215, or more than 28%, as explicitly negative. So again, why is this game on an overrated games list when, all things considered, it's not very well liked in the first place?
On top of all that, this collection has absolutely no added content other than access to the 3 title soundtracks, but that's small potatoes in comparison to what was expected.
What were you expecting exactly? The game is called Super Mario 3D All-Stars, a clear allusion to Super Mario All-Stars, the SNES game which famously put Super Mario Bros., Super Mario Bros. 2, Super Mario Bros. 3, and Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels on the same cartridge, with the only notable changes being a save system and improved graphics. Now, all of these games originally had save features, so they couldn't exactly add that for 3D All-Stars. So, again, what were you expecting? I wouldn't even be so confused by this point if you didn't say that adding soundtracks wasn't small potatoes compared to what was expected, implying you were expecting something much bigger. Okay, well, what is that?
I'd have to say that the thing I take the biggest issue with is the fact that Nintendo made Super Mario 3D All-Stars a limited release, marketing it as only being able to be bought from September 2020 to March of 2021.
Man, I hate it when I'm recently disappointed by something I haven't been able to buy for over a year.
Making it seem like it would be in short supply if you didn't get it immediately.
As opposed to if you did get it immediately, at which point the supply would become infinite.
However, this was never ever the case, as you can find the brand new unsealed version of the game on eBay for even less than retail price.
That's called reselling, and it's not uncommon, especially with games that are widely in demand and widely circulated. While it was in print, Super Mario 3D All-Stars sold over 9 million copies. So naturally, there are still going to be copies floating around that are sealed in the box even a year after the game was discontinued.
I guess in summary, fans just expected a lot more from this particular collection of classic 3D Mario games.
Then the fuck is overrated about it?
And if they just added a few more extra features, or even just small Easter eggs somewhere, then it maybe wouldn't have made this overrated games video.
Okay, so if the game was better, you'd like it more. I think I understand that concept.
Now, me including an Animal Crossing game in an overrated Nintendo video is definitely a bit of a controversial take.
Again, it's an overrated games list. You're supposed to be giving controversial takes. That is why you are making this video in the first place. I have never seen somebody who does not understand the kind of video they're making, or thinks the audience doesn't understand the kind of video they're making, that's also a possibility, to this level before. I honestly haven't. I understand this may just be a me thing, but I honestly find this manner of speaking to be really fucking annoying, by the way. I've made it no secret that I do not like repetition nor redundancy in my videos, and this is a very extreme example of that, because Copycat consistently feels the need to remind his audience what the very premise of the video is, despite quite literally giving us all we need to know about that via the title of the video. I know I'm kind of ironically harping on this, but imagine if I began every interjection in this commentary with, "I believe there was a flaw in the clip I just played." No shit, that is why I'm cutting away from it. That's how the medium I'm in works.
And here is my reasoning, which is that I do think New Horizons is a solid game. I can see why it wouldn't be for everybody. Even myself in the beginning wasn't a big fan of the extremely slow-paced gameplay, as it isn't the type of playthrough that you can necessarily work towards an end goal. And instead, you sort of just continuously try to improve your island with really no end game. Okay, before the hate mob comes out for me and I need to hide in a hole for the rest of my life,
I just want to point out that the only thing he's done so far is state basic facts about the Animal Crossing series. Yes, the games are slow, and the entire point is to improve an island. That is what people who like the games like about it. They like the slow, laid-back, relaxed gameplay, primarily about interacting with characters and this island, as opposed to an action-adventure game.
I do acknowledge that there is fun to be had in terms of customization and creation, but I just think there could be way more layers to the gameplay, as in all honesty, there isn't much real playing involved. Maybe in the end, that's just my biggest critique with Animal Crossing. It really plays more like a life simulator than an actual game.
It really plays more like a life simulator than an actual game? Copycat, I don't know how to tell you this, but life simulators are games. Oh, and maybe the reason why Animal Crossing plays more like a life simulator than an actual game, as you put it, is because, and hear me out on this, it's a life simulator. Wikipedia explicitly calls it a social simulator, which is a subcategory of life simulators. So yeah, I guess it does play more like the genre it is a part of than it does actual games, whatever the fuck that means.
You need to pay off mortgages and renovate your living area to improve your life. Sort of like an alternative to real life.
Yes, I understand the concept of life simulators, and for that matter, even if I didn't, their name kind of gives away what you do in them.
Next, we're gonna look at a series I think we can all agree is one of the most overrated Nintendo franchises of all time.
Again, if everybody thinks that something is overrated, it by definition cannot be.
In Star Fox. As since its debut on the SNES, the gameplay has barely evolved.
Yeah, it's an on-rail shooter. That's a genre that is notoriously difficult to innovate. That is why when developers do tend to add to the genre, what they do is they do things like add more levels. In the case of Star Fox 64, add branching pathways, or change the control scheme. This is another one that just simply falls into the what do you expect category.
One series that I absolutely love, but I've heard that many people think it's overrated, is Pokemon Snap.
Well, wait a minute, do you think it's overrated? Because I didn't click on this video to hear what, quote, many people think. I clicked on this video to hear what you think.
As they say, the gameplay is boring and repetitive, with no real draw to keep playing. I would have to disagree, as I think the large amount of cool secrets and fun Easter eggs are a huge joy to discover, even if the story itself is rather barren. Also, in the newer game, I love the concept of sharing photos with other players, but unfortunately I don't really know anyone who even plays the game, so I haven't been able to do that yet. I'd love to know what you guys think of this series in the comments below, as most people I try to convince to play it think the mechanic of taking photos is just dumb and boring and stupid and blah blah blah, they came blah blah.
I have no idea what the point of that segment was. So, apparently in this video that's supposed to be about Nintendo games that he thinks are overrated, he took time out of the video to talk about a game series other people think are overrated, but that he doesn't, and explain why he likes it? Well, that's great and all, and I'm happy you're a fan of Pokemon Snap, but I have no idea what it has to do with the concept of the video.
We now come to the most controversial moment of this entire video, where I have to explain why I think Splatoon is one of the most overrated Nintendo series of all time. Okay, I get it, you can hate me, but before you leave this video and unsubscribe, at least hear me out. You guys need to realize that I've been playing shooting games ever since Contra on the NES.
The fuck is a shooting game? Do you mean third-person shooters? Do you mean run-and guns? Do you mean games that take place after the looting has started? What does that mean? Anyway, that's all I want to cover, so final thoughts? I don't think he strung together a single coherent sentence throughout this entire video. That is very impressive. And remember, he began by saying that these were the best reasons he could give. Good night, and good luck.